MCCI has constantly been a key influencer, molding the views of the government to enhance
Good evening once again. I would like to invite our chief guest for the day, Mr. Vellayan Subbiah, Executive Chairman of the Cholamandalam Investment and Finance Company, to the head table, along with Mr. Ram Kumar Shankar, President, Madras Chamber, and Mr. Vishwanathan, Vice President, Madras Chamber of Commerce. I welcome you all once again for the public session of the 189th AGM of the Madras Chamber. We take pride that the Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industry has not only been sustaining itself for the last 189 years, but we are still relevant to the members, and that's why we have the member support here. Thanks again for joining. We will also be hitting our double century in a matter of another 1 decade. Thank you. So before I start the event, I would like to request all of you to keep your mobile phones on silent mode, please. So we will now begin the program. I would like to invite Mr. Ram Kumar Shankar, President, Madras Chamber, to give the welcome remarks.
Mr. Subbiah, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is my privilege to welcome you all to the public session of the 189th Annual General Meeting of the Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We are especially honored this evening to have with us our distinguished chief guest, Mr. Vellayan Subbiah, Chairman of Cholamandalam Investment and Finance Company Limited. His leadership across diverse sectors, finance, engineering, green energy, and digital transformation, epitomizes the kind of visionary entrepreneurship that we need in today's India. His recent recognition as the Ernst & Young World Entrepreneur of the Year 2024 stands as a testament to his ability to lead with foresight, scale with purpose, and inspire with humility. Sir, your presence adds great value to this gathering and reaffirms a deep and enduring relationship between business leadership and the Madras Chamber. Thank you so much for being here today. I also extend a very warm welcome to the past presidents of the Madras Chamber, Governing Council and Expert Committee members past and present, our esteemed members, the CSR awardees and the members of the jury, representatives from foreign missions and consulates, members of the media, and all our distinguished guests and invitees. I will not dwell at great length on the activities of the Chamber during the year 24-25, as they have already been detailed in the business session, and will also be presented through the highlights video shortly. However, a few words about the Chamber would definitely be in order. As many of you may know, the Madras Chamber was founded in 1836, making it the second oldest chamber in the country. It is a very rich legacy, but we do not rest on legacy alone, for we cannot afford to do that if we wish to stay relevant. Over 189 years, we have remained agile, responsive, and active, adapting to the needs of industry and policy while upholding the values that have defined us for nearly 2 centuries. Today, we serve over 700 member organizations across diverse sectors: manufacturing, logistics, education, banking, and information technology, representing a significant portion of Tamil Nadu's industrial ecosystem. We are proud of the fact that we stay true to our origins and are sharply focused on the industrial development of the state of Tamil Nadu. We see the Chamber as a platform for policy dialogue, a partner in reform, and above all, a catalyst for progress. We take pride in maintaining a neutral and balanced approach that encourages open discussion and constructive collaboration. As we reflect on the year gone by and prepare ourselves for the path ahead, it is important to take a broad view of the landscape in which we operate, globally, nationally, and closer to home in Tamil Nadu. The world continues to experience significant shifts in the geopolitical and economic order. Conflicts, trade disputes, and power realignments are creating volatility. I almost said havoc. More of the same is no longer an option. There has been and continues to be disruption on an unprecedented and unforeseen level. But as always, with this disruption lies opportunity. Global businesses are now recalibrating strategies, seeking resilience in operations and revisiting traditional markets. The reorientation of global supply chains away from overdependence on single geographies has created a strategic opening for countries like India. According to the IMF, India's real GDP is projected to grow at around 6.5% in FY 25-26, anchored by robust private consumption and macroeconomic stability. Despite global headwinds, India retains its status as the fastest growing major economy, supported by structural reforms and resilience, and stands poised as a compelling alternative in global value chains. Our large and youthful talent pool, improving infrastructure, digital economy, and stable democratic governance are being recognized globally. The country's total trade, both inward and outward, in 23-24 exceeded $1 trillion. Demographics is in our favor, with a median age of around 29 and a fertility rate of close to 2, where other countries are struggling with far older populations and fertility rates well below the replacement level of 2.1. Two-thirds of our population of 1.4 billion is in the working age group of 15 to 64, while another 25% is in the age group 0 to 14. This is an extremely strong base which will only help fuel our growth in the years to come. That said, there are challenges as well. Skilling of the labor force is fast becoming a serious issue, with employability becoming a question. Provision of meaningful employment to this very large young population is going to be key to how well we utilize our demographic dividend before it too eventually fades. This will have to be one of the top priorities for decision makers. India has made giant strides in the services sector, and the success story in that area is well known. However, the challenge is to increase the share of manufacturing in our GDP. Our huge population makes India a very attractive market for most goods. Of late, though, geopolitical challenges looming around the world are making supply chains very fragile and susceptible to collapse for diverse reasons. It is thus all the more important to bring manufacturing home, and most countries have started realizing the importance of this with an increasing focus on localization, especially in India. In India, we have been ahead of the curve with the Atmanirbhar initiative being rolled out a few years back, and there has been a lot of focus on increasing the share of manufacturing in GDP with measures such as PLI to support this, though I'm afraid that we have not yet seen the results of that. Tamil Nadu in this larger context stands tall. The state's GSDP of over $329 billion, in fact the 25-26 budget talks of an estimate of over $400 billion, comes 53% from services, 34% from manufacturing, and 13% from agriculture. In that sense, the state has focused on balanced development across sectors, and across regions as well. The state is a leader in automobile industry, electronics, textiles, aerospace, and renewables, while emerging as a hub for electric vehicles and green manufacturing. Our state has the maximum number of factories in the country, close to 40,000 of them. This is a reflection of the importance given to MSMEs in the state and the entrepreneurial instinct that has resulted in so many small and medium enterprises coming up in Tamil Nadu. This is something to be very proud of, and more importantly, something to be encouraged even more in the years ahead. For entrepreneurs are not just business creators, they are job generators, change agents, and vital contributors to a more inclusive economy. This means encouraging enterprise not only in metros and industrial clusters, but also in Tier 2 cities and rural areas. Our state has indeed been successfully doing this, with development balanced across regions and not just restricted to Chennai or Coimbatore. The Chamber is deeply committed to supporting this entrepreneurial mission through policy advocacy, knowledge sharing platforms, training and skilling programs, and collaborative forums that connect entrepreneurs with mentors, investors, and ecosystems. With a legacy spanning over a century and a half, the Chamber remains steadfast in its commitment to shaping policy, fostering thought leadership, and driving meaningful change. In this overall context of entrepreneurship, we are greatly honored to have Mr. Subbia's presence here today. His journey embodies the entrepreneurial spirit. The EY World Entrepreneur of the Year 2024 award to Mr. Subbia is not just a recognition of business success, it is a celebration of values-driven leadership, long-term thinking, and nation building. It's a great movement for us, especially from Tamil Nadu, that since 2001, he's only the fourth Indian. The awards have been given from 2001 onwards, and he's only the fourth Indian after Mr. Narayan Murthy, Mr. Uday Kotak, and Ms. Kiran Mazumdar Shah to receive this very prestigious award. His inspiring address while accepting the award made two very strong and interesting points. One was that the main purpose for every individual is to change oneself for the better, to improve, to evolve. And second, he quoted Steve Jobs in terming entrepreneurs the crazy people, the square pegs in round holes. But he also said it is these crazy people who truly change the world. I think I speak for all of you when I say that Mr. Valiant Subbia is doing more than most people to change the world for the better. There is another set of people who are doing their bit to change the world for the better in their own way. Those who are working towards making impactful contributions to societies through CSR. Today, we are recognizing corporates and NGOs who have made a difference to communities through their meaningful work. MCCI CSR Awards are an initiative by the Chamber to recognize and celebrate meaningful contributions. Launched in 2018 with the objective of recognizing and appreciating impactful and scalable CSR practices, the awards have grown in stature and credibility over the years. The winners of the MCCI CSR Awards 2025 stand out for exemplary work positively impacting and aligning with community needs. We hope their efforts will inspire others to continue making a positive difference. Before I conclude, my heartfelt gratitude goes out to our members for their trust and participation, to our past presidents for their vision and continued support, to our governing council and working groups for their thought leadership and commitment, and to our secretariat for their tireless work behind the scenes. We look forward to a thought-provoking evening ahead. Thank you all for being here and for being part of the Madras Chamber's journey. Together, let us continue to build a stronger, smarter, and more sustainable tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, pointing out the changing geopolitical complexities, the shifting priorities, and why business as usual may not work anymore. Also probably pointing out that success isn't about fitting into a mold, it is about breaking free from it. Thank you very much. We will now have a customary plant welcome present to the chief guest. I would request Mr. Ramkumar Shankar, President, to present a plant to the chief guest and welcome him formally. This denotes prosperity, growth, and peace. The Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industry boasts a rich legacy, deeply intertwined with the economic evolution of Tamil Nadu. To acknowledge this heritage and spotlight our recent endeavors, we would like to present a brief video showcasing the Chamber's history and some of the key activities from the past year. Can I have that played, please? Thank you. Sorry, we had to play it a little fast in the interest of time. Thank you for your attention. While this video offers a glimpse into our journey, we are aware that capturing the entirety of our extensive history and initiatives is akin to bottling the vastness of the sea water. Thank you so much. We are at a very important moment now. Let me repeat what Mr. President said. It is indeed both an honor and privilege to have Mr. Vellayan Subbiah as the chief guest for our 189th public session today, AGM's public session today. It's absolutely my special privilege and pleasure to introduce our chief guest to the elite audience. Mr. Vellayan Subbiah, civil engineering graduate from IIT Madras, holds a master's degree in business administration from the University of Michigan. He has over 26 years of work experience in consulting, technology, manufacturing, and financial services. Mr. Vellayan is the executive chairman of Cholamandalam Investment and Finance Company Limited, a leading NBFC in India, as you all know, in the business vehicle finance, home loans, SME loans, etc. He is the Vice Chairman of Tube Investments of India, TII, one of the Murugappa Group's leading manufacturing companies in the business segments ranging from bicycles, metal-formed products, tubular components. He is the Chairman of CG Power and Industrial Solutions Limited, CGP, pioneer in the field of electrical scooter, and is engaged in design, manufacturing, and marketing of products related to power generation, transmission, and distribution. Mr. Vellayan worked with McKinsey & Company USA for 6 years. His experience at McKinsey spanned across strategic consulting, mergers and acquisitions, and operations management. Mr. Vellayan has worked with 24/7 customer INC, Sundaram Fasteners, and Laserworks in different capacities. He is on the board of SRF Limited, Cholamandalam Investment and Finance Company Limited, and Tube Investment of India Limited, and CG Power and Industrial Solutions Limited. I am happily repeating what Mr. President said. He was a recipient of the EY World Entrepreneur of the Year 2024 Award, EY Entrepreneur of the Year 2023 India Award, and the Extraordinary Entrepreneur of the Year Tricon 2014 Award. He was featured in Fortune India magazine, October 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, let us put our hands together and give a big welcome to him. I would like to now invite him to speak here.
Thank you. Namaskaram. First off, thank you. It's quite an honor to be here. And so first off, I didn't realize that the chamber was 189 years old, so it's quite fantastic. I was hearing that it's basically the second oldest chamber in the country. Can you hear me or not too? Yeah. I just heard that it was the second oldest chamber in the country, and that's quite fantastic to see the history. And I just realized that 3 of my family have been, I think, presidents of the chamber, including the first Indian president, my great grandfather. So I think, Ram, you were very warm in the introduction, and and you talked about how about changing the world and how entrepreneurs change the world. I think all we need to do is just change Tamil Nadu and change India. That itself is enough. So that's what we need to stay focused on. And honestly, when I look at the opportunity for us, I think it's phenomenal, right? Because Ram talked about the demographic dividend, and we always kind of keep talking about the opportunities. But I also think that we need to think of what are the gaps, right, in our thinking, and what doesn't allow us to kind of bridge some of those gaps, right? Because I often find in India, we're always thumping ourselves on the chest saying how good we've done, how well we've done. But we're not seeing where the world is going and how much of a gap it is, And so I think it's very important for us to think of what the opportunity is really, and really say what is it going to take for us to get there, right? And so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that. I was also talking to Ram, basically saying that, I'm not very comfortable talking in a monologue for 1 hour. So what I'd like to do is probably talk for about half an hour on some of the key points that I'd like to raise, and then open it up to all of you for any questions you have, and I'll be happy to respond to them. So I think that might be better from a format perspective. So really, like Ram said, it's an exciting time for India. It's an exciting time for us. But honestly, I don't feel like we're even reaching, 10% of the potential that India can reach today, right? And I honestly think that that is the challenge from India's perspective, right? That we have so much potential. We have the smartest people. I mean, we're very smart people. I won't say the smartest people, but we are very smart people. But we really have to start thinking of why we haven't been able to kind of go out and address all the opportunity that I think kind of India has to address. And you were talking about, Ram was talking about the chamber and policy advocacy. I think that part is important. I just really want to, if there's one country that we should look at in the recent past that's been able to achieve a lot, it's China, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But, the first thing I just want to say is I think a cornerstone, Ram mentioned that, we have 40,000 factories in Tamil Nadu. I really believe that manufacturing for countries, for the developing world, manufacturing is going to be a very integral part to being able to be a significant world power, right? We're talking about, when we'll become the third largest economy in the world. But, one is to do it with, the brute force of our population. One is to do it with a lot of, intellect in terms of how we can actually occupy that position effectively. When I look at data, so when I look at data, it's really interesting to see, where people are in terms of manufacturing as a percentage of GDP, right? And this, we've obviously got industrial GDP, which will include logistics and some of the other factors. But it's actually amazing that India is lower than on pretty much all of the countries, right, that we can think of in Asia that we would think of as a relevant competition, right, when it comes to manufacturing as a percentage of GDP, right? India is only at 14%, right? And honestly, I think that is too low a number for a country in the state that we are in today. And what's more astounding is that even if we take all the other kind of Asian countries, they're all significantly ahead of us, right? It's not just kind of small numbers that a lot of these countries are ahead of us, right? When you think of 27% of GDP in Thailand, that's very significant, and we always think of Thailand only as a place to go to for holiday, right? But, it's like, we're not realizing how significant manufacturing is as a percentage of GDP. Vietnam, right? I mean, it's amazing that, I get more emails about how I should be looking at opening up factories in Vietnam than opening up factories in India, right? And the rate at which these countries have gone is really a lot for us to learn from, right? Because we have not thought, and we have to systematically think of why have they been able to grow so fast and why have we not, right? And I think, honestly, versus chest thumping, I always think of just introspection, right? Saying, why don't we introspect and say, what do we need to grow much more aggressively? And that's something we really need to ask ourselves. One of the other components in my mind is also the components of manufacturing GDP, right? This is an interesting chart because it talks about the difference between China and India. Right? It's a slightly dated chart in terms of numbers. It's 2021. But very relevant, right? If you think of China's base, right, in 2021, it was 3.9 trillion in manufacturing GDP, right? So it's not a wonder, we always keep comparing ourselves to China. I don't think we've earned the right to compare ourselves to China, right? We're at 444 billion in GDP, and we keep in manufacturing GDP, and we talk about China, right? We're 1/10 their size, right? And honestly, everybody has lots of things to say about China, but I have tremendous respect for any country that has been able to pull its entire population out of poverty within 2 generations. Okay, India, has had 75 years of independence. We've still not been able to do it. Or 79 years of independence. We've still not been able to do it. Here is a country that took the entire country out of poverty within 2 generations, right? I don't think anybody in the world has come close to achieving something like that, right? So I definitely think there's a lot to learn. And I'll focus a little bit because I do think that there are a lot of things that we can think of that we can basically learn from them as a country, right? The first interesting thing here is just looking at the composition of their GDP, right? And I'll come to, the charts I'm going to talk about after is talking about how they went about it, right? And, I don't know how many of you have seen and read some of the Chinese 5-year plans, right? But the systematic nature of their thinking is extremely critical to how they've achieved what they've achieved today. And I'll basically talk, about a more recent policy, one that they just announced 10 years ago, which I think has the most relevance to us. It was a policy called Made in China 2025, which they've since downplayed. They don't talk about it that publicly, but it's a very relevant policy, right? Formation of GDP, manufacturing GDP, I think is very, very relevant, right? When you look at it for us, right, the largest component is auto, right? And we're always spreading ourselves, kind of a lot of auto. I mean, I'm sure in this audience also, I'm sure there's a lot of auto. Because, it's been something that, that has been kind of a mainstay for us in India, right? But what is very interesting when you look at the next slide is that when they looked at auto, they didn't focus on IC, right? They just said, listen, we see renewables, we see EV coming, and that's what we want to dominate on, right? And that's very relevant for us, right? Because actually, now there is a lot of that is missing in India right now, right? Which is we've not thought ahead about kind of, where are we going to be in the EV space, how are we going to dominate. But the bigger things are, when you look at the formation of the GDP, electronics, for example, you see a 13%, right? Versus 2% in India. Now, when I look at a profit pool in an automobile, right? How much of the profit pool on the automobile do you think is the metal in an automobile anymore? Anybody? Again, I said I don't want to talk in a monologue for a long period of time, right? Huh? It's a slightly higher number, but the point is, where do you think the profit pool is shifting? To the electronics in the vehicle, right? Do we make any of that here? Pretty much all of that. Right? If we think of all the like we think of motor control units, you think of vehicle control units, battery management systems, even kind of displays, entertainment systems, so all of that stuff we tend to import, right? And the challenge we have to start thinking of is where the profit pool is shifting to, we have not shifted, right? So why are we not thinking of by industry, by sector, where is the profit pool moving and what are we doing to move towards that? Right? I think it's because we seem to be very comfortable in a set of things that we have done, right? And I think that just getting out of our comfort zone is the biggest transition that we need to make, right? As a country, as a state, all of us, how do we just get out of what we've been comfortable doing? Explore. It's not going to be easy to move into new areas. It wasn't easy for the Chinese to move into some of these areas. But it is just the systematic nature in which they've gone about it that has basically got them to the position they are today. Right? Today, they account for close to 34 to 35% of global manufacturing. Right? Now, I see it as, I can't see any situation where in the next decade, they won't get to 50%. So what we have to ask ourselves is, what space can we occupy? Right? How do we start thinking of how we can be relevant as a country, how we can be relevant as a state, right? And kind of look at what we can be relevant in. We have to fundamentally rethink the composition of our manufacturing GDP and what we're going to do about it. One area here is machinery and capital equipment. Okay. How much machinery and capital equipment do you think India makes and how much do you think we import? What do you think our self-reliance is in terms of machinery and capital equipment? Huh? 80% imports. I would say in a lot of sectors, it's more like 90% imports today in most of the capital equipment sectors, we import over 90% of the capital equipment that we consume as a country. This is just not sustainable, right? We can't even think of making some of these things here. Right? We basically say, oh, I have to, it used to be buying German or Japanese machinery. Now we're saying, okay, I buy Korean or Chinese machinery. That's the only thing that's changed, right? But basically we're importing all of our capital equipment. So what we have to look at, and this is the thing, right, which is, there are a lot of you in this room, right? One of the reasons why Prakash and when Ram invited me, I was happy to accept, is because I really think that unless the people in this room say, what businesses are we in? What are we going to be in, right? How many of us are willing to say, okay, see, capital equipment, if you want to manufacture capital equipment, it's actually a lot of just saying, it's technology intensity, saying I will go out and study everything that's required if I was supposed to make this capital equipment. It is not actually as capital intensive, but it requires a lot of technology intensity. That's what we have. But it requires us to step out, because it's not a comfortable thing to do. To say, like, listen, I'm going to go out and make, capital equipment for, whatever industry, the electronics industry, any other industry. Do we have the capability sets to do it? Absolutely. We have to ask ourselves, why are we not doing it? Right? And I think that's one question I constantly want all of you to think about. Because if we start thinking of what it could be, right, and what it is, at 27 billion today, and by the way, most of the capital equipment we make is, for steel, right? For example, in TI, we basically make, because we've been in tube making, we basically will make, like a tube mill, right? Because that's something that we've been in for 75 years. But have we said, like, we're in tube making, but I will make something for the electronics industry? No, we've not ventured out into that, right? We've not been willing to take those kinds of risks, because again, we've been in a comfortable situation, right? Comfortably, we're seeing this much growth. But I think that comfort lulls us into a state of, because after a while, if you just stay in a comfortable state, right, I think our relevance itself will get lost, right? And I honestly feel that there is the danger of that happening. Right? Though we are, always are so kind of proud of where we're going as a country, I think the demographic dividend, Ram talked about skilled workforce, right? I'd actually say that there is no central skilling mechanism that will work unless somebody says, I'm going to get into this industry, I'm going to go and train people for this industry. If I started, right? We started a semiconductor packaging facility, right? In the sense, we're building it out now. So we had to train engineers in that space. There's nobody available in India itself to train. There's nobody available in India itself to build a plant. Okay? All the people who are building our plant are basically Filipinos, Koreans, and we've actually now also got some Mexican Americans in. Right? Because there's nobody who can even build a semiconductor plant that is Indian. Right? That's the state that the country is in, right? I'm talking about things that are major components of GDP globally. And the crazy thing is that 20% of the world's semiconductor engineers are Indians. But we don't have anybody in India who can build a plant for us today, right? This is the situation that we've ended up in. It's a very strange conundrum to think of the situation we're in as a country, right? So I would actually say that, we have to start thinking of these sectors, right? And there's sectors that I think we've gotten used to, right? I look at, like things like metal and metal products, the bottom half, right? These are sectors that I would say, in general, we tend to be used to as a country and comfortable with, right? In a lot of the top half, I would say that we have still not pushed the envelope in terms of where we need to go, right? And so, really what we should start thinking of is, what do we do, right, to actually kind of start going out and kind of penetrating these sectors on the top? Because without those, I feel like that our relevance in the long term is really threatened, okay? There was that whole, for a while, there were all of these things going around about how, China had invested in all these deep technology startups, and we were investing in Zomato and Swiggy and kind of getting faster food to our house and then faster, so that we could basically kind of, and honestly, it's a huge difference in thinking, right? Because they are basically saying systematically what is required to be relevant in the world 50 years from now, 70 years from now. And we're saying, what do we need to do to kind of fill our stomachs for the next 5 years, right? And actually, I think it's very flipped, because if we take our legacy, right, where we come from, our heritage, our spirituality, we were actually the longest term thinking people in the world, right? If you think of kind of what, I'm a fairly spiritual person, but I actually think that if you go back and study how systematic we had been in terms of our approach, right, to thinking about the future, we had actually evolved society to a level that, was basically, we had the ability to say, like, listen, this society should be able to live like this, like 500 years from now, 300 years from now. That's how our society had evolved. And we've gone from that to now us becoming short term, and some of these other countries being able to think in a much more long-term fashion than us, right? And from that perspective, I just want to talk about how China has approached it in terms of policy advocacy and kind of how they've really approached it as a country, right? In 2015, they articulated this document, and honestly, I think a lot of you should kind of read it. It's available in public domain. It's called Made in China 2025. It articulated the sectors in which they wanted to become dominant. Why I put it up here is because I feel that India can do a total cut and paste. Tamil Nadu can do a total cut and paste. We should just call it Made in India 2035. Okay? We'll be 10 years behind China. That's okay. We should take exactly the same 10 industries. Right? Because if you look at the sectors they have talked about, okay, next generation information technology, high-end CNC and robotics, okay, aerospace, aviation equipment, you can go down the list. Exactly the same 10 sectors we need. Okay? Exactly the same 10 sectors we should say we should become dominant in. Okay? And by the way, you notice that they're not talking about vehicles. They're not talking about the auto sector. They just said new energy vehicles. Right? Today now I'm in the queue to buy a BYD car. Okay? Because honestly I tell you, if you think of it, next 15 years from now, none of us are going to aspire to buy German cars or any other cars. We're going to aspire to only buy Chinese cars. They will be the best technology on the planet. They started off with low cost, low quality, right? That was their mantra. Now they're producing higher quality at lower cost, right? So we have to learn from kind of, how do they systematic. So if you actually look at this policy, it's amazing how detailed it gets. This Made in China 2025. They talk about these three areas, right? This is the three principles. Localize and indigenize, that's step number one. The second is substitute, right? Which is we do not want to be dependent on foreign technology anymore. We want to be able to develop our own. And the third is once you're able to develop your own, you capture global market share. Okay? We have as robust a domestic market as China does. Right? We can basically absolutely, if we don't, that's why I'm saying you can basically just cut and paste this whole policy. We need to do exactly the same things. Like first localize and indigenize, develop our own capability to do it. Right? Second, right, just say, listen, how are we going to substitute? Why ABC abroad? Right, we've got the engineers, let's focus, even if it takes us 5 years, 7 years, 10 years to do, let's focus and start developing that technology indigenously, right? And third, once you've been able to do this, you go out and start capturing global market share, right? So it's a fairly simple policy, but goes into an amazing amount of detail. They say like in 2015 they said this. They said by 40, we want to be in some sector, they'll say 40% indigenized by 2020, 70% indigenized for them by 2025. If you look at it today, they're 75% indigenized in that same sector, right? And everything is aligned with that, right? And so really just thinking about what how we think as a country to kind of get to that level, I think is extremely relevant for us, right? This page is also very relevant, right? Which is, how have Chinese industrialists looked at it differently, right, from how we've approached it in India, right? So first is, they clearly have national priorities, okay? And then secondly, they all align with those national priorities. Right? They basically say, okay, this is where the country is going, we'll align. Why? Because the whole system works like that, right? So kind of once the nation says, these are the things we want to do, made in China 2025, they said these 10 things. So all the entrepreneurs will say, okay, we'll focus all our entrepreneurial efforts on these 10 things, right? But the 10 things in themselves are so broad, right? And I'm saying that there is enough for all of us to kind of focus on. So as long as we say, listen, let's focus on these 10 things, I'm sure that, that's enough to kind of move the country significantly ahead, right? So the first is, how do we start thinking or start saying, here are the 10 priority sectors. How do we align with these 10 priority sectors as a country, right? So it shouldn't be like somebody wakes up tomorrow and says, oh no, my sector is not on that list. Okay, I want to go and lobby. My sector is more important. I'll go and lobby in that list. And so what we have to think of is how we use advocacy, how we use kind of each of these sectors, because without that alignment, right, I think it's very difficult for a country to move, right? I always think of it, I keep joking, like one of my favorite stories on this is, how many of you have seen this movie Finding Nemo? How many of you have seen the movie Finding Nemo? Okay. What happens, when all these fish are caught in the net? What does Nemo say? Huh? But there's some alignment that Nemo creates. Now, it says all move in the same direction, right? The biggest thing that I see, I love India because we're fairly kind of, chaotic in the way we look at things. But in that same chaotic way, we'll all be swimming in different directions, right? The question is, how do we all swim in the same direction? That's what we need to do as a country. We all need to swim in the same direction. So, in China, once these 10 national priorities are set, the whole country goes behind these 10 national priorities. And they've been able to achieve it. I would say in the 10 sectors that I just listed on the previous page, at least in 9 sectors, they've already achieved global kind of, I'd say, dominance, right, in terms of their ability to kind of go after share. So the first thing is, can we get people, and I honestly, one of the reasons I put this up is because I feel like the chamber and kind of organizations like yourselves that do a lot of advocacy have the capability to influence this, both at the state and the national level. I'm really saying that not that much work is needed, because we just need to just say, first off, right, are we all willing to align to something like this, right? Without all of us going up and saying, no, I'm offended that my thing is not there, I want to add it, all of these things. Just say, okay, now this is where the country needs to go. Let's just accept it, right? And then let's just support that country in that journey, right? That's step number 1. Second is scale and at-scale thinking, right? I think that this also is something that requires us to step out of the comfort zone, okay? It's sometimes worrying, okay? I mean, like, when we did the semiconductor thing, that's about a 7,800 crore capex, okay? TI had never done a capex before that basically had exceeded, I think, like 800 crores, right? So we're like, we go to 7,600, 800 crores, something goes wrong, and now. But I feel like even at 7,800 crores, there are only 3 OSATs that have been announced in the country. We're still nowhere relevant to terms of world scale, where we need to go. And we just need more people who are going to be willing to take a risk at scale. Okay, now will everything go right, no, it will not. Will it be difficult to do these things? Yes, it will. But honestly, the country can't grow if more people don't start thinking at scale, right? I mean, So we need at least like 100, 200 entrepreneurs to say what is the relevant scale that's required for the country to grow. Why don't we start taking those bets? See, capital is no longer a constraint. Okay, everybody says, how will we get capital? How will we get capital? How will we get capital? See, if you have the right ideas, one of the OSATs is a company called Keynes Technology. A very interesting gentleman, right? He basically started off doing work for the defense, right? And he's just an engineer, did work for the defense. And when he wanted to fund the OSAT, he just went to the public markets and said, hey, listen, I want to do an OSAT. Keynes Technology just got listed. And he raised the capital to do it. Because public markets are willing to fund it. Public markets are willing to fund it. Private markets are willing to fund it. So I don't think capital is any longer the constraint. It is only our mindset of, am I willing to take that kind of risk, right? If I've got a X crore business, am I comfortable saying I will make a business that is 50 times as large? Right? We have to develop that desire, that vision to say, okay, why can't I be 100 times as big, right? And it's very relevant, right? Because I remember the day, Reliance became a 200 billion market cap company. I said, see, why can't more companies from the south think, like, why can't we be 200 billion market cap? There's no reason why we cannot, right? We've got as smart, and as a matter of fact, every time I go to Mumbai and go to Delhi and meet all these guys, all the guys who are working for this Reliance, or all of them, will all be good Tamils only. Okay? All of us are out there. We're working for them. Instead of saying, Inge Tamil Nadu, why don't we take that risk? Inge, why don't we build it here? We're going and working for that. So this at-scale thinking, and by the way, the guys who are executing that at-scale thinking also are Tamils, right, for the most part. So we have to ask ourselves, why won't we be willing to take these kinds of, risks, these kinds of bets on our own? We have to step out of the comfort zone to do it, right? But I actually think that we are more capable of doing these things here, right? We've got a supportive central government, we've got a supportive state government, everybody is supportive of infrastructure growth. We have to take these moves. We have to start doing some of these things. I think that's very, very important for us. The third thing is R&D, right? It's something that India significantly underinvests in, right? And there's a lot of, now, every time I say, India underinvests in R&D, everybody jumps back at me and says, how many global capability centers India has? How much good R&D work India is doing, right? And I know we have a lot of global capability centers, but where do you think the IP from the global capability centers is going? Where is it going? Huh? It's going to those countries that invest, no? I look at it's semiconductors. Every company you say Qualcomm, Broadcom, Texas Instruments, NXP, Infineon, right? All of them will have at least 7,000 engineers in India, right? Now, full chipsets, on the fabless side, full chipsets are getting developed in India. But the IP goes back to that country. Then we'll buy the chips. That's a 70% gross margin business, okay? What do we get out of it? We get a 10% markup on our people, right? So we're selling our people at a 10% markup. Okay, and then we're buying the product at a 70% gross margin. So I'm a Jettiar, okay, is this good Kanaka to have or not? We have to think, Indamari Kanaka, why will we go and get caught in this, no? And that's exactly what we're doing as a country, right? So, and this R&D talent is there, right? But why can't we get some of that R&D talent instead of them working for that, right? Why can't we hire them? So we actually, we're trying it. A lot of these things might fail, right? But, there's a Japanese chip manufacturer called Renesas, right? And they were selling their radio frequency business unit. And we bought it. It's a small division, right? But after we bought that division, we're already the largest fabless design company in India because India does not have any fabless design companies. That despite the fact that 20% of the global engineers are Indians. right? That is my point about none of the IP is coming back to India. We are basically, so like China has 29% of the world's semiconductor engineers, right? Design engineers. But they all develop IP, they develop the chips in China, and then they will sell the chips to other people. We develop the IP goes somewhere else, and then they sell the chips to us. We have to look at this as the difference, no? Can we build a country like this on just marking up our people by 10%? Right? Again, I have a lot of respect for the GCCs. I think that they're good for India. 275 billion in exports is no small number to sneeze at. But in the long term, unless we start thinking, what are we going to do to keep our IP here for ourselves? Again, you go back to those 3 principles on the previous page. I think that our long-term ability to compete globally is threatened. Right? Because then we will only become a service provider. We'll only have that much kind of limited kind of ability to grow. The next area is outbound M&A and JV. Right? JVs we're good at to a certain extent. Outbound M&A has been very limited. Right? We have to think of this. And all of these things are risky, okay? But basically Germany, Japan, Korea all have great technology. Right? Now what the Chinese did very successfully is that they would go and start buying up some of this technology globally. They would go and buy the company from there and then take the technology and then kind of bring it back to China and then scale production out of China. Now I think that this is a very relevant strategy for us, very relevant opportunity for us. Because if you actually look at it, it's not just the Eurozone because, see, first off, right, I think one huge advantage we have is the hunger that is there in Asia in general, right? I would say China, India, and a lot of Asia tends to work a lot harder than definitely the Eurozone, okay? And increasingly also the US. The US also used to be a very driven economy. But after a lot of this work from home and all of that, they're not as driven as they used to be. The Eurozone has gotten very comfortable with the quality of life, right? And therefore are not as driven, kind of as this thing. But Indians want to work hard. Chinese want to work hard, right? And we have to think of how do we leverage the fact that we want to work hard. And right now, obviously, we get paid less than the Eurozone or America, right? Definitely between those 2 geographies, or even like if you take Korea, any of these other countries, we get paid less. We get paid less than China also, right? But their productivity is higher, we get to that. That's a different point. But what we have to think of is, because of that, some of these technology owners, like in Eurozone, Japan, Korea, they have great technology. But now that the Chinese are now either copying that technology or have got it in whatever way, they're providing that technology at a lower cost. The only way for the Eurozone or China or Korea or Japan to be competitive in the long term is for them also to then manufacture that technology and innovate to the next level of that technology in a lower cost economy like India. So actually a partnership between a lower cost economy like India and Japan or Germany is required in areas where they have technology, right? And Germany still is an industrial powerhouse that has a lot of great technology. They export like 1.35 trillion a year. We have to really think of how do we partner with people like this. In some cases, where German companies are not going to be able to compete there, can we go out and do outbound M&A? In some cases, now Japan's also, private equity is getting a lot more prevalent in Japan. So can we do that with Japanese? And then bring that technology back to India and scale it out of here, right? Definitely a huge possibility in a lot of the sectors I talked about on the previous page. And the final area, which will take a little time, right, is I keep saying, how many global brands can you think of that come out of India, right? We've not thought of, what we're doing to kind of globally brand, right? And that's what's going to be interesting. Because if I look at BYD, it is definitely going to become a global brand that is as relevant as Tesla or kind of any one of these other companies kind of, in the next 5 to 7 years. China is beginning to think like that. How do they look at global brands? How do they establish global brands, right? And honestly, we have to start thinking like that, right? What are we going to do to create a global brand that comes out of this country, right? Because unless we start dreaming like this, unless we start saying this, the ability for India to grow at that scale, right, and really begin to kind of occupy, I mean, again, I'm not arguing at all that our economic lot will continue to improve over the next 15, 20 years. But I don't feel like that should be what we aspire to, right? We have to aspire to something that is greater. We have to aspire to something that can just be, honestly, it is the rightful place that India deserves, right? But it requires a lot more coordination, a lot more thinking, a lot more kind of effort that can only really start if all of us kind of go back and start saying, okay, why am I just, if we go back, I mean, I would honestly say, if everybody goes back in this room, if everybody goes back tomorrow and just kind of says, okay, it was good, we went and listened for 45 minutes of some gyan, and then go back to kind of listening as usual, then I think I have failed, okay? And, that's okay, maybe I will kind of anyway kind of this thing. But I really feel like unless we all start thinking, and even like if 5% of the people in a country start thinking a bit differently about where the country needs to go, that critical mass is required, right? And then that critical mass can then kind of take a lot of other people along with it, right? So it actually just requires, I would say, a handful of us to start thinking differently, to start saying, what can we do that can really change India's future, right? I mean, like I always say that in a sense, like you all know, I mean, I've had 3 elders of mine that have been presidents of the chamber. So I was born with a silver spoon or whatever, in my mouth. And so I'm very fortunate from that perspective. But the question is that, what do you do with that, right? I mean, do you basically see that as something, I actually think that you have to look at that as a larger responsibility, right? You have to say, what are you going to do to fundamentally change, where this country can go? And honestly, it's a great country. We can kind of go, there's nothing that can stop us if we get aligned as a force. I don't feel like there's any country in the world that can stop us, right? Because the biggest difference, I think, there are 2 huge differences that I see between India and China. The first is our spirituality, okay? Because that is honestly a much greater force, right? Than basically, what you can get. And because China has chosen to be a religion-free country, I don't think that will allow them to keep going like this forever, right? Because spirituality is a very necessary core strength that we have as a country, right? And the second is that they're able to go quicker because, and we'll always say, oh no, they're not a democracy, they can go like that, right? So they're able to create that alignment quicker. But that alignment is created in it's not as organic a way in which we can create alignment. And if alignment is created organically, it's much, much more powerful than, a different construct. So I really think we need to use these 2 forces, right? Kind of spirituality and an organic way of kind of creating alignment as a mechanism to basically create, right, what can be a huge opportunity for us as a country. And I genuinely believe that if we do that, right, then we will truly be a force, to reckon with, right? But I just want to say, and I don't mean to kind of dampen anybody's this thing, I'm saying there is a lot of work for us to do, right? So I genuinely don't believe in a lot of saying, okay, hey, things are going to be so great, things are going to be so great. I genuinely believe that we have to think just this, which is in any audience that you're in, I always think, who are the 5 people in this audience who are going to be able to change the direction a bit, right? It's like we've got a big tanker, big kind of, a big steamship headed in some direction, right? Who's going to kind of alter that course, right? 1 or 2 degrees, right? And who are the people who are going to be to do that? And so what I really want to leave you all with is, I want you all to think of this as just an individual, and think if this has been a conversation just between me and you. What are you going to do, right, to change your direction? After you leave this room, what are you going to do to change your direction? Do you feel it's even necessary? You might just say, total kind of, waste of time listening to this fellow for 45 minutes. That's fair. But if you just say it's relevant, I think the only way we can change our country's direction, our state's direction, is if we basically say, I am going to change what I am going to do about this, right? Just by a little bit tomorrow, or you might say, listen, I'm going to fundamentally change how I'm going to be about this. I feel like if a few of us in this room make that change in direction, we can make a huge change to the direction of the country. Okay? Thank you. Namaskar. If there are 1 or 2 questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise,
Any
if there are any questions, I'm happy to
Yes,
answer.
please. You pass on the mic.
Namaskaram, Mr. Malayan. You touched upon scaling up. I was eagerly looking upon your guidance on building the competitiveness as India, so that we are able to scale up. And when we talk about competitiveness, it also touches upon the productivity aspect. I've heard some video of you where you have mentioned about release or unleashing of energy or something like that. You truly mentioned about spirituality. Okay, spirituality and business have a lot to do together, but it's going to be difficult for everyone to understand. So if you can make it in simple words, how do we kind of build this competitiveness and build this productivity which is contributing to this competitiveness to scale up to what in the international region that we are playing in?
So, I don't know, but I heard 2 different questions on that, because you talked about the energy side, which is a bit different. Energy for productivity. Okay. The energy side is fundamentally, at least for me, kind of what I've come to understand is that the amount of, how much, I just kind of, I get the simple formula is like Einstein's formula, right? Which is basically, E equals mc squared, right? So, what is the average mass of the person in this room? Should we say like 50 kilos? Whatever you want to take the average mass at. So basically, you multiply that by 9 times 10 to the power 16, that's the amount of energy that each of us have. Right? So my simple question is, what percentage of your energy do you think that we use? How much, if you have X in energy, what percentage of that do you think you use? 30%. Others? 5. I think it is definitely in the 5 range, right? Because I feel like very few of us use more than 5% of the energy we have, right? And what is amazing is that only in the East do we understand this concept of energy, right? In a very different way. So we call it prana, some people call it ki, chi, kind of depending, Japan, kind of this thing, they call it ki or chi. But this is only understood in the eastern part of the world, right? Which is this concept of what life energy is. So basically the way you look at it is that there's a certain amount of life energy, and that has to be translated into other forms of usable energy, right? But there are techniques, which is what kind of exists in our system, which is basically you can increase the amount of pranic flow in your system, right? That pranic flow is basically blocked through certain things. There are techniques and kind of mechanisms to increase it. When you increase it, you realize that the amount of energy you have is a lot more, right? So naturally, when you have a lot more capability, then the question is, how do you focus that, right? And so to me, you can choose to focus that energy in whatever way. So that's the only way I look at it, right? Which is like, what do you do to increase your own energy level? And there are tons of techniques in our system, right? In our spiritual system, to just do that, to increase the level of energy you have. I mean, for me, I do it's through yoga and sadhana, and I do like a minimum of at least I'd say at least 2.5 hours of sadhana every day, right? And I see like that just significantly increases the amount of energy I have, and I'm able to focus that energy a lot better, right? So naturally, will that make people more productive? Yes, right? Now, unfortunately, in a democratic society, we can't tell everybody you do 3 hours of sadhana a day, okay? So that's why I say it's a self-discovery process for everybody, right? How do you want to see what you can do to improve your own productivity? If you feel it's important enough for you, you'll do it, right? If you feel that you can make a change because of that, you'll do it, right? And you should also become the type of person where somebody else sees you and says, oh, man, it's like, when you see some guy that's really drunk and happy, some people say, I want what he's drinking, right? So, like that, if you see somebody that's like, really, seems to be very focused and energized all the time, some people will say, man, I want what that person's on, right? And so you have to kind of think of how can you become something like that, and that's the way I look at it. So.
Maybe just one more question, because we have the CSR awards to be given.
Yeah. I'm Durga Prasad. Thank you, Subbaya, your valuable insights and, contrast insights, differences between Indian economy and Chinese economy. Let me share my experiences, so that, it's beyond your insights you shared. See, it's if you go through something 2005 or beyond that, when China was, putting up the installations of wind energy. I'm from wind energy and automotive sector. So that time actually China is lagging India. We went there, we trained them, in making of wind turbine gearboxes and everything. That time their installations are far behind of Indian installations. So today, if you see that the installations in India, it's reached to 50 gigawatt, and China is 500 gigawatt.
Can we make it a bit brief, because we have the awards. People are waiting to receive it from him.
What I mean to say is that you touched up the point. I'm coming to directly the point. So national interest. See, it is. They established the entire supply chain first initially for their own requirement. After that, they started exporting from the, once they get into saturation of their own requirement, they go on into the global exports and everything. I'm taking the example of the wind energy. So, now it is actually, the entire, they're commanding on cost and everything, low cost and everything. How the low cost is mainly because of subsidies. Subsidies. There is a power subsidy. There is a building subsidies. There is
so I understand where you're going.
No, it's just
Sorry, sir. I think we are running out of. Is there a question? Is there a specific question?
No, that's what I'm saying. That one more point is that there is a global agitation on our Indian food products. If you see that Indian grains are very cost competitive in global market. There was a lot of agitation from Brazil, from Western countries. See, that's what our food products, because cheap or cost competitive because of subsidies. Similarly, it's Chinese products, manufactured products are, highly cost competitive because of subsidies. That's what my point.
See, I think that we always want to say, what is wrong with the other person, right? And I feel like that is part of the challenge with our mindset, right? If we keep saying, oh, they're only this thing because of subsidies, then we're just finding a reason to say, oh, I mean, like, this is the problem, no? If we see anybody else doing well, say, oh, maybe that fellow is, doing that because he's doing something wrong, because he's doing something right. I'm just saying, what is wrong in just seeing what is good in others, right? What is what they've done that is really good? What can we learn from them, right? I don't think that if we apply ourselves, can we get there? Absolutely, right? But the constant thing we want to say is, oh no, China. See, how can a country across 10 sectors produce so much in subsidies that they have to give, right? Okay, now I think they're just very focused, right, in terms of how they want to be competitive. And they've achieved that competitiveness, right? So the way I look at it is, we can always say, we can always point out, like, here are the 5 things that are wrong with China, right? That's how they've kind of got there. Instead of that, I'm just saying, look at the 10 things that are right with China. If you don't want to look at, this thing, then you look at kind of like the 3 things we can learn from Japan, 3 things we can learn from Korea. I just feel like the opportunity in the world is to look at what's right and what we can learn from them, right? So the biggest things I feel is that we have to be in a mindset of learning, right? We have to be in a mindset that is open enough to learn, to see, hey, somebody else, I can learn from them, and I can basically improve myself, right? If that is our mindset, then I don't think, and honestly, this is the Indian way, right? We were always seekers. We were always people that wanted to basically kind of learn. So why should we stop being seekers in this? Why should we treat that differently? Why should we treat this differently? Let's just say, okay, they've done well. The honest truth is that they've pulled kind of, the entire country out of poverty in less than 45 years. Okay, let's see what we can learn from them. That is our way. You see something, we see anybody in the street, we'll just say namaskaram. Why? Because we're bowing down to them. No? We just see them saying, hey, somebody we can learn from. Why can't we do the same thing in business also, right? Just say, okay, what can I learn from you? I bow down to you. I learn something from you, and I progress from there. That's the way I see the world. Okay, my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Vellayan Subbiah. I think one more round of big applause for him. The message is loud and clear, be the change you want to see. And as he said, while comparing the India and China, he had said very clearly the positive differentiator could be our spirituality and organic way. Thank you so much, sir, for that very nice message. J.R.D. Tata said, in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder in business, but in fact is the very purpose of its existence. Today, we are also presenting MCCA CSR awards to the winners. The CSR committee of the Chamber was formed in 2015, and the Chamber's CSR policy was unveiled in 2017 with the objective to be a chamber with a soul. The MCCA CSR awards were subsequently instituted in 2018, again with the objective to recognize and award impactful projects executed in collaboration by corporate and NGO. We thought the collaboration should be the key word, not just signing a check, but how the corporates collaborate with NGOs. So that becomes the bottom line for our CSR awards. We have been giving away this award since 2018, barring the 2 COVID years. And this year we have received 52 applications, and after 3 stages of rigorous evaluation totally by an independent agency, 6 projects were shortlisted for the final presentation before an eminent jury consisting of Mr. P. N. Vasudevan, Managing Director and CEO, Equitas Small Finance Bank, Mr. Shankar Mahalingam, Global Lead Community Outreach, First Source, and Dr. Jayashree Venkatesan, Managing Trustee, Careth Trust, who almost spent the whole day with us in judging the jury as a part of jury. So here we are to announce and award the winners. I would request Mr. Sathapan, the co-chair of our CSR committee, to announce and call them upon to receive the award.
Thank you, ma'am. We have 3 awards for the MCCA CSR Awards 2025. First, I would like to call upon the second runner-up. The NGO partner is Banyan Academy for Leadership in Mental Health. Corporate partner is Sundaram Fasteners Limited.
This is a small token cash award of 25,000 and a citation.
We will also play a small...
A small video can be played about the project. Quick. Sorry. Please. To come and receive the award from the chief guest. We cannot have a better chief guest to give away the 2025 awards this day. You can give a 1 minute acceptance speech. 1 minute.
சிறந்த சமூக பொறுப்புணர்வுக்காக MCCI வழங்கிய இம்மதிப்பு விருதால் நாங்கள் பெருமை அடைகிறோம், புதிய நம்பிக்கை பெறுகிறோம். மனநல பாதிப்புடன் வாழும் பல கோடி மக்களுக்கான மனநல சேவைகளின் அவசியத்தையும் மனநல மேம்பாட்டிற்காக அர்ப்பணிப்புடன் பாடுபடும் அனைவரையும் கௌரவிக்கும் ஒரு அங்கீகாரம் இவ்விருது. எங்களுடன் இப்பணியில் இணைந்தவரை மனமார்ந்த நன்றியுடன் இந்நன்னாளில் நினைவு கூறுகிறோம். நாடெங்கும் முக்கியமாக வறுமையிலும் ஊரக மற்றும் மலைகளில் வாழ்பவர்களுக்காக மனநல பணிகளை மேற்கொண்டு வரும் எமது ஆயிரக்கணக்கான மாணவர்கள், புதிய மனநல சேவைகளை கண்டறியவும் சேவை தரத்தை மேம்படுத்தவும் உதவும் எமது ஆய்வுகளில் பங்கெடுத்தவர்கள், பெற்றோரின் மனநல பாதிப்பால் சிரமத்தில் வாழ்ந்தபோதும் எமது கல்வி உதவித்தொகை, ஆலோசனை, ஆதரவை பெற்று வாழ்வில் உயர்ந்து இன்று எம்முடன் இணைந்து பணியாற்றும் நேற்றைய குழந்தைகள், இன்றைய அறிஞர்கள், எங்களது அணுகுமுறைகள், அனுபவங்களை மக்களுக்கான மனநலக் கொள்கைகளில் புகுத்திய மத்திய மாநில அரசுகள், மக்கள் நல பணிகளில் பங்கெடுப்பவர்களையும் விருப்பமுள்ள புதிய உறவுகளையும் இணைக்கும் பாலமாக இவ்விருது தனித்துவம் பெறுகிறது. நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
மிக்க நன்றி. The cash award goes to the NGO and the citation goes to the corporate. I request the chief guest to give both the awards to them, to both the parties. Can we get it? Check it? Okay. Okay, right, thanks.
Thank you. So, the first runner-up award goes to Sports Village Foundation. The corporate partner is Latent PU Analytics Limited.
Is there a video? Wait.
What happens when passion meets opportunity on a football field? That's the idea behind Chennai Kalpandu League. Our goal is simple: to leverage the passion for football as a medium for school engagement and holistic development. We launched this initiative in 2019 with a focus on students from both government and private schools. Then the pandemic hit, giving us time to reflect and refine our purpose. In 2022, we returned with a clearer mission: focusing solely on government schools. CKL is structured into 3 phases: pre-league, league, and post-league. In this phase, training is conducted through skill development centers. In 2022, we began with 180 students, and the number has grown to 495 as of 2025. The training program has expanded from 40 sessions to a comprehensive 6-month curriculum, supported by enhanced nutrition, upgraded equipment, and sports insurance for every player. This is a 7-day mega event where all the trained football teams compete to win the trophy. We've completed 4 seasons so far, and chief guests like Anup Yangar, A. Manoharan, Amulya Kamal, Ashok Kumar, Sharat Kamal, Elavanil Valarivan, Joshna Chinnappa, and Shri Karthik Sabariraj have joined us and motivated our students. Top athletes from the league go on to train in regional development centers that are FIFA-accredited academies such as Chennai FC and Football Plus. We are proud to share that currently 31 top talents are being trained in these centers. Balamurugan reached the India Khelo football finals and trained at Alpha Sports Academy in Patna. Umar earned a scholarship for international training in Spain. Maruva and Aishwarya secured full SDAT scholarships after excelling in state trials. These rising stars are the torchbearers of our vision. We look forward to seeing more such young athletes progress into sustainable government football programs and eventually represent India in top leagues.
It's a 50,000 cash award to the NGO and a citation to the corporate. And then 1 minute acceptance speech by you.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor and privilege to stand here in the annual general meeting and give my acceptance speech. On behalf of Latent View, I really thank MCCI for this recognition. It's really meaningful to be getting this award here. Very short, I represent Latent View. We are a data analytics company, and we use data and AI for giving insights to and decision making for our clients. We're global, and also we are the first pure play analytics company who went public a couple of years back. Yeah, so it's the video that we just showed talks about what our program is. We believe that we have to give an opportunity to every student to show their passion and ignite the passion, and this initiative came up as a very as an ingrown idea, and we're really happy that we've been able to take it to a stage with a lot of data and inputs from people of the fraternity, from our employees, and a lot of support from our founders. We are looking at a vision where we have students who are going to represent the football arena, India first and then global. We're very happy that we have taken baby steps in it and look more forward for whatever we are going to do. Thank you, and I think one of the most important, it was really learning for us to go through the jury. They gave a lot of inputs to us, and thank you MCCI for this wonderful initiative. Thank you.
So the winner of the MCCI CSR Awards 2025 is Swami Vivekananda Rural Development Society, and the corporate partner is Super Auto Forge Private Limited. So the NGO partner will be awarded with a cash prize of 1 lakh rupees, and we will have a small video about the project.
I feel this also syncs with the spirituality Mr. Villain was talking about. Give a big hands to the final winner. Sitaram sir, please wango. You should come. You should. You are the force behind, we know. When I said 3 stages of evaluation, the people who were helping us in this went to the field and took a 360-degree feedback from all of them. And a word from you?
Good evening and namaskarams to all. My pranams to our founder chairman Sri Vedantam ji, who has been instrumental for developing this organization, who founded this organization about 40 years back, still guiding us, monitoring us and taking us in the good path. We are very honored to receive the award today from MCCI, and our respects to MCCI for giving this great opportunity to us to be part of this program. Mainly, our sincere thanks to Super Auto Forge, Chairman Super Auto Forge. They have a lot of development programs, CSR programs, and aligned with many NGOs. They have chosen us to be their associate partners for this award program. Thank you so much, sir. You have been very inspirational. Super Auto Forge has been supporting us for last 7-8 years for various projects. And as Madam said, we have been collaborating very well. The bonding is very strong. My final thanks to the juries of this initiative. Thanks to them for recognizing us, recognizing our good services. And I would consider this as not only for our past and current activities of us, but also it's a motivation factor for doing much more than what we are doing now. Thanks for your motivation. Thanks for your support. And we assure you that we'll be doing more and more. Finally, my thanks to our co-members of Swami Vivekananda Rural Development Society, our staff, my colleagues, and mainly there are 1,000 female teachers in our organization teaching the children in the evening, spread over 12 districts of Tamil Nadu. They have been fundamental in running this organization. The excellent teamwork, hard work with lot of passion is the success story for the organization.
Congratulations to all the winners, and thanks to those also who applied. We got 52 applications, as I said, and it was a 6-7 page application, very detailed and totally an independent, objective and transparent evaluation. Thanks for all your support. We would like to probably expand these activities in the years to come. In fact, I found in Cholamandalam Finance the statement from Mr. Villayan on CSR. We all have a responsibility to give back. Giving back creates a virtuous cycle that makes everyone more successful. Thank you so much, sir. மோதிர கையால் குட்டு படணும் வாங்க, இங்கே மோதிர கையால் தட்டி கொடுக்கப்பட்டிருக்கீங்க. So, I am sure we are going to go far ahead. Thank you so much. And this year we also added one more category. Basically, we used to, as I said, the collaboration was the key. But some of the companies members were asking, since they are doing through their own foundation, will that not be also considered? So this year we also opened up a category, no cash award, only a citation for the corporate, and 12 applications we received, and we are happy to select, or the winner is Rane Group. Who has come? Mr. Anand, CFO, I would request you to come and receive the citation. Come, Mr. Shiva. They have provided quality education to 1,000 rural children through Rani Vidyalaya. Thank you very much, sir. Would you like to say a word, please?
Good evening, all. It's a great privilege and honor to receive this award, and I would like to thank MCCI and the external jury members for this recognition. And as our chief guest today rightly said, the learning mindset is very important for all of us in the country. And towards this, our CSR objectives, the main key area is education. That is to provide quality education in the rural areas. That is our core objective. Towards this, we established a CBSE school, Rani Vidyalaya, through our foundation near Manachanallur, a rural district in Tiruchirappalli. And happy to say that the school has completed now 7 years. And the last academic year, our first batch of students appeared for class 10 board exams, and we secured 100% results. Now they are in. Really, it's, I would like to thank to all the school management team as well as the CSR team of Rane Group on this occasion, and definitely this award motivates us a lot, and we will be further improving our journey in the CSR. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, congratulations to all the winners. All that has begun well has to end well. So before I invite Mr. Vishwanathan to give the vote of thanks, let me invite Mr. President to present a memento and felicitate Mr. Vellayan Subbiah as a token of our appreciation and gratitude. And more importantly, we would be happy to present a coffee table book, though some of our past presidents say it should be called as a history book, not a coffee table book. We have championing enterprises. And before I do that, can I invite the author of the book also to the table, Mr. Sriram? It's a complete history of not just the Madras Chamber, but the whole industrial development in Tamil Nadu and southern India. And obviously, Murugappa Group have been an integral part of this journey. Can I now invite Mr. Vishwanathan, Vice President, Madras Chamber, to propose a formal vote of thanks.
Chief guest, Mr. Vellayan Subbiah, Mr. Ramkumar Shankar, President, Saraswati, members of the Governing Council, past presidents, representatives from consulates, trade officers, representatives from city chambers of commerce, and chairpersons and co-chair of expert committee members, and ladies and gentlemen. That was a scintillating speech, sir. So thought-provoking. Speaking from the heart, you touched many of our hearts and also left a lot for our mind and our soul to chew on. There was so many questions that came out of that as to why we can't do more. And I think some of us in this room will not be able to sleep tonight after listening to your speech. there are a lot of takeaways I noted down, but I just want to mention two things as something that really struck me. One, in terms of getting out of the comfort zone and the fact that not taking any risks is the biggest risk of all. And secondly, the fact that what we as individuals, as companies, as a country can do is limited by our mindset. So thank you so much. I wish we could actually relay this speech all over the country to really wake up so many people across the country. Really appreciate your being here today, sir, although you have a flight to catch early morning tomorrow. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and sharing your valuable thoughts. I'd like to thank all the representatives of different chambers, different consulates, trade officers, the past presidents who are here, the governing council members, and all the other members and invitees who are here with us today. And this event would not have been a success without all the hard work that the Secretariat put in. So really appreciate the work that the Secretariat was silently doing for many days, weeks, months before this. What we see in the event is always just the iceberg, and there's a lot that remains unseen. Would like to thank the designers, the printers, the Chamber Secretariat, the press, the hotel, for everything that went into this event. And finally, let me not fail to thank all the CSR awardees, the chair, the co-chair of the CSR committee, all the applicants, and especially the jury. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Vishwanathan. Let us rise for national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
I request all the governing council members for a quick group photo. Sir, if you don't mind. Yes, sir.